Hello, everyone, and welcome back for another episode of In Conversation with ASI. Today, I am joined with an incredible woman based over in New Zealand, Tracy Ilton. Welcome, Tracy.
Hi, thank you.
It's so nice to have you here, and especially I know that with COVID, you probably wish you could have come over, or we could have even gone there and travel and things, but it's just the lay of the land now. But I don't think, based on what I know about you and what I've seen across your socials, you really let that stop your progress when it comes to styling, which I'm really excited to share in this chat today. But I would really love for you, because some people might not know you, you're a bit of, like me, a bit of a veteran in the ASI community in the sense that your course was a little while ago. So if you could maybe just, introduce yourself and share with the community who you are, what you do, and your journey so far.
Sure. Well, hi. Thank you firstly for having me. I'm really honoured to be a part of the conversation and very pleased to be here. So I joined ASI, it's over 6 years ago now. I had been a flight attendant for 24 years for that, prior to that, and it was too long in that industry for me, and the airline I was working for didn't have a very good culture, to put it politely, and so I found myself yearning to leave, and it came to me one night, probably at 4 a.m, that I'd always wanted to be a stylist. So I did a bit of research, and I remembered having come across an Australian training organisation previously, and I couldn't remember much about it. So I did my research online, as you do, in the middle of the night, and I discovered the Australian Style Institute. And I read everything I could on the website, and I think I was able to download a PDF that night. And I'm pretty sure I gave all my contact details, and Penny phoned me the very next day, and I just couldn't believe that the follow-up was so prompt, and everything on the website was hitting all my boxes in terms of how it was such a community. There was a real sense of community, and I felt very inspired to be a part of such a positive environment. So I was lucky to speak to Penny the next day. Then I went through my interview process, and before I knew it, I was flying from New Zealand to Australia to join the Australian Style Institute community. As I say, it was 6 years ago, and the courses were different back then. So I did the advanced certificate, which I think is like their masters now. And so I had a couple of trips across to Melbourne then. And I have since done, went to Brisbane for a 2-day to crew on becoming a stylist for 2 days.
Oh, wow.
And then I went back to Melbourne, and I did I crewed on one of the certificate courses, and I had another trip back there for another speaking course, and I think it was the launch of the Highline, which was amazing. So I've been there a few times.
Yeah. We were in that weekend together, and I touched on that just before we hit record on this session. But I do remember it was we had the Fashion Business Forum on the Friday, and then the Saturday, Sunday was the speakership program, which was sort of masters in its infant stages, as what we knew it now. But
yes,
yeah. So cool.
And I would have been back again, but obviously I can't get there at the moment. I have, in other studies I've done since my styling, I did a diploma in small business and project management, and one of my projects took me to Melbourne. I was going to be doing trips from New Zealand to Melbourne with clients to take them on shopping trips. That was probably just before COVID. So I did get over to Melbourne, and I did a lot of research. I met with retailers and arranged to have special treatment for my clients, some discounts. It was going to be amazing. But, it's okay. Another day.
Yeah, it's funny the way that, in fact, some of the people that I have been speaking to in this series have all said similar things, like there were big projects in the works, and then all of a sudden you sort of have to hit pause. But I guess when things open up, are you looking to get that started again?
I'm not sure at this time. I think there's still quite a high level of uncertainty in New Zealand, and it will take some time before people are more confident to do something like that. And it's not even around the travel. I've noticed we've only had 2 big lockdowns in Christchurch, where I'm based. Auckland have had 7, I think. So we're very, very lucky. But the second lockdown that we've just come out of, there is quite a difference in how people are shopping, and there's a lot more caution in the air, and it's quite noticeable. So I think it's going to take just a wee bit longer yet before I would consider something like that.
Yeah.
But I sort of see in the future there will be different opportunities that come from the situation we find ourselves in now, in that probably I'm a lot older than most other students that have been through ASI, and whilst I love technology, I would have always wanted to be more one-on-one with my clients. But I can see in the future what has happened with COVID and lockdowns is that maybe we will end up doing far more virtual styling, which means, yay, you've got a whole world at your fingertips rather than me in Christchurch, which is such a small city. There are huge opportunities that will come from how we adapt to the current situation.
Yeah. I'm curious to know, I mean, you mentioned before that you were a flight attendant before you stepped into styling. What was sort of the catalyst to really, like, that 4 a.m. sort of light bulb moment? And I know that some people in our community have had similar times and stuff like that, but was it really, I guess, that feeling like you just had to investigate more and sort of be curious about that got you to here?
Yes, as I say, we had a really poor culture within the organisation that I was working for, to the point where I was suffering from stress, lack of sleep, and it was not a nice environment to be in, and I'd been there for such a long time. It was eroding everything about me, and so that was probably the most important thing for me, to get out and get away from that kind of environment. But then it also made the Australian Science Institute so much more attractive to me, and that was really important to me, was this sense of community. And I could tell that everyone involved at the actual institute was there to coach and develop and build confidence in everybody, rather than this whole pulling people down. And that was really important to me. And another aspect was connection. So when I was flying, you're so busy, even on a long haul flight, which I flew long haul for years, it's actually very busy. So your one-on-one time with each customer is very limited. So you don't really have that opportunity to connect, whereas with styling, it's all about connection. So that was, another catalyst in choosing to move into styling.
Love that. I mean, you're gorgeous, and you've definitely got this great sense of style, even from what I remember when I met you on that weekend. Have you always been a fashion lover as well?
Yes, I have. I was a very tall and gangly teen and had no confidence whatsoever. And my mum put me on a modelling course, which was fabulous. And I was as ugly as anything. I mean, I'm not attractive, but I'm striking. And so I just absorbed everything. We had homework to do. It was, I don't know, a 2-week course or something. And I've still got my homework book now, which is probably embarrassing to admit, but I just loved it. And at the end of the course, I won the best student or something. And I just loved that everything about it could transport you from, I was very working class, like my parents were quite poor, and I could go into this environment where you could be anybody. It's almost like acting, and that's, to me, what style is. So it doesn't matter where you've come from, it doesn't matter about anything, it's just how you can portray who you are through what you're wearing. And at 15, that was my journey. It was just, from there on, it was all go. Yeah.
With your long haul flights and things like that, you've probably seen some really amazing places. Is there anywhere that sort of comes to mind, I guess, from a fashion perspective, of seeing something on the street or shopping in a particular store, maybe a memory that sort of ignites that passion for fashion for you?
Oh, look, San Francisco for me is just amazing. Yeah. Their style is amazing. They're really well put together. The only thing you'd notice is that it's quite hilly, so they'll often be in sneakers with the most amazing outfit. And I saw that when I went there when I was 19. I went hairdressing modelling, and long story anyway, but I was over there doing hairdressing modelling and went to San Francisco. And even that first trip there, I can remember how stylish everybody was. And then and I mean, they weren't your cool sneakers like we have now. They were really just purely for comfort. But I was there, oh gosh, about 2 years ago, and still loved it. Met a girl in a cafe and asked if I could photograph her. She was really cool. Certainly not mainstream, what you'd expect with us, but just amazing. And they love it, you know, especially Americans. They're never shy about getting a photo taken as long as you ask. And it was really neat. So I do love the style of San Francisco. Yeah.
Yeah,
But
it's a beautiful city. I've been a couple of times, and I do get the sense that it's a little bit like Melbourne, especially in certain pockets. It sort of has
yes.
that vibe, but there's
Mm.
definitely a certain lifestyle and aesthetic that they live by, and it's quite different, especially when you think of the rest of America and I guess how we know it based on what we see in TV and films, which is fictional
Mm.
anyway, but there's got to be some level of realistic representation. But
Mm.
yeah, it's an unexpected area to feel like someone might draw fashion inspiration, but I love that. It's so cool.
Yes. Yeah.
Um, I would love to know sort of more about your journey and where you're at now. So, working part time in a retail space, but then you obviously have your personal styling business, and
Yes.
I mean, you've got an ebook.
Yes.
And
I've had it published now. Shameless plug. It's actually in print.
that is
So
amazing.
yeah, yeah. So I'm very proud of that.
Yeah. Tell me about the process of putting that together.
Well, it was part of my course when I was doing my diploma, and one of my projects, I said to my tutor, I would like to write a book. And I said, if I can get it onto Amazon, then I've got a long-term income stream, or passive income, if you like.
Yeah.
And he thought that was a wonderful idea. So I'd done quite a few blogs, which were on my website, because you know it's great. Oh, I'm going to write a book. And so I just got together all my blogs and thought, how can I make these cohesive into a book? So then they became some chapters, and then I edited them. But I must admit, something I discovered was Upwork.com, and I don't know if you've heard of that, but it was fantastic. So I put everything together, and then I went on to Upwork and advertised for a copy editor just to go through it. And people apply for the job, and you can basically do online interviewing, that kind of thing. And I selected a girl who was living in Seoul, but she happened to be from Christchurch, of all places, where I live. And so she had a very good grasp of the Kiwi language and idiosyncrasies and things. And so she was able to edit it beautifully for me. So that was done there. I had it illustrated by someone I used to fly with who's also local. So it's a really local production that the illustrations are absolutely beautiful. And so it was quite a long, well, when I say long process, it was about 3 months from the start to the end, maybe 4. And I ended up getting it put on Amazon as an ebook on Kindle, and it's done really well. It's, you know, I'm not going to become a millionaire, but it's certainly still ticking over. It's still providing an income 2 years down the track, and it's been a steady income. And I think when I first put it on there were over 5 million Kindle books, and mine usually ranks around 65,000. It's been better, and it has dropped to sort of a couple of 100,000. But when you look in fashion, there's 3 categories it's in, and it's usually in the top 10. So it's pretty good.
That is awesome. And I
Yeah.
love that, like, you've got that, I guess, data behind you, because some people might publish the book but not look at, you know, that progression and where it ranks and how important that is as well in terms of the success of what you've done.
Mm.
Very cool. And using
Yeah.
local, that's such a beautiful idea. And I love the illustrations, I must say. Like, when I flick through your social posts that talk to it, and even, you know, just your general marketing collateral that sort of has snippets of that through it, it's really strong and definitely identifies with who you are and your brand, which is awesome.
Yeah, and I've also made sure that it's very uplifting for women, because I know it doesn't matter who you are. You know, people can look at me and think, "Oh my God, she's so confident," and yeah, I'm all right. But on the inside, at times too, I have exactly the same insecurities as any woman has, and so I really wanted this to be able to appeal to everybody and help them feel better by the end of it. And I have a bit of a wild sense of humour, so there's a little bit of humour in there as well. So yeah, it's a nice light read that will hopefully help people to feel more confident and yeah, and give themselves permission to be who they want to be. And I think that's really huge.
Yeah, it's interesting how we need that permission so much these days, isn't it?
From yourself, not always from other people, but you have to give yourself permission. And that's something that I probably haven't really done until I hit 50. And then it was sort of like, well, trying to dress to how I thought other people wanted me to be hadn't worked that well anyway. So why not just do it for yourself? And it works.
Yeah. And I guess, the clients that you work with, do you find that this is a common theme that sort of occurs with them as well? Is that the process is kind of like the permission giving to themselves?
Yeah, there's so many different reasons for someone to seek a stylist, but I do know that most lack confidence and most hate shopping. And so when you can take them in and you've done all your pre-shopping and it's so streamlined, they think you're a miracle worker. They don't know that you've actually been in there doing lots of prep and everything. That's cool. And it's just, they love it. It becomes a really simple process for them, and they get these pieces that bring them joy, and it's just fabulous.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
What do you love about it? What's sort of, I guess, the thing when you work with a client that sort of, I don't know, I don't want to use the term warm and fuzzies, but sort of ignites that passion to keep going?
Oh, it's definitely seeing them when we meet and then seeing them when we finish. And so when I meet them, they're probably a bit shy, a bit nervous, because if they don't know me, if they haven't worked with me before, they're probably thinking, oh, she's all right, and not judging. And so, we can establish and connect very quickly. But it's seeing the difference. So if I do your style makeover, where I do the wardrobe refresh and the shop, and I'm taking photos throughout that process, the difference between the photos at the start and the photos at the end when we've done the shop and integrated everything, it's just, they're like two different people. And you collate that into a lookbook and they can see the difference in the transition. So that's really neat. So yes, for me, seeing the joy in my clients is amazing, and that's what I love.
Yeah. I want to touch on sort of like a support network, because I think when you start a business and you go out on your own, especially if you've been long-term employed by someone else, it can feel like you're sort of out on this lone island and trying to figure it all out on your own. But who has sort of been either a constant stream of support or the biggest support for you throughout this journey?
Well, definitely my partner Ken, and he's been to Melbourne a few times with me, and you'll probably meet him at the launch of the Highline, and he's just amazing. He has been an absolute support. He helps me with everything. He helped me with the book, because there's a lot of layout and stuff that you have to do behind the scenes with these books. As I say, I'm sort of like, oh, I'll write a book. And but he was able to bring it all together for me. He's very creative with photography and artwork. So, but he's also my biggest champion. And yeah, he's amazing. And I would not have been able to do any of what I've done without him. So I'm very, very lucky. Yeah.
What are you excited for in the future, be that of the industry as a whole or your career in styling? Is there something that comes to mind?
Well, I think I sort of touched on it before with this global possibility now, with virtual styling becoming more and more commonplace, and that opens up a whole world. And so I think that's really exciting. But for me, I think it's getting repeat clients and growing my connections. I've actually been really lucky. I have styled from Auckland at the top of North Island to Stewart Island, right down the south. I've been to Picton. I've been through a lot of areas in New Zealand, which is amazing. And so I hope that continues, and that my network grows. But when I started in the retail, going back into it, it wasn't something I really wanted to do. And after the lockdown last year, I thought, gosh, my Ken is a pilot, so his job was probably insecure, being in aviation. So I thought, I'll get a wee part-time job. And he's still working. He's got a great job, so we're very lucky. So I could have left, but I didn't want to. And what I have found now, I have the book available in store, people are coming and buying it and I can sign it and chat to them. But I've actually had people come running into the shop and introduce themselves, and I'm like, hi. And they'll go, oh, I read your book, or, I've seen your blogs, and I love that. So that's where it's taken some time to get there, but to actually have people know that they can approach me, and I love it, and I'm not going to be snobby or a bit standoffish. I love that they can feel they can do that. I've had people at the supermarket come up, and it's really nice. So that's just where I find my joy, and hope it continues in the future.
Yeah. How do you go, I guess, implementing some of those personal styling strategies on the shop floor of a retail store?
I actually keep them a bit separate. So generally when I'm in the store, I'm there doing in-store styling for the owner of the store. But when I have conversations that get more involved, or if someone comes in and picks up the book, then I'm there as Tracy, Ilton Stylist, and I have those conversations around if they need help, if they want help confidence, and then how I can help them there. But I tend to try and keep it separate, just because I don't want to overstep the mark with my employer, although they are more than happy to have a personal stylist in store. So yeah, it works very well.
Yeah. When you're in a fitting room with a client, and I guess because some of our stylists right now are working in that sort of retail space, and I guess what are some tips that you could share from your, I guess, feet on the ground in that position to keep that muscle building, maybe even for someone who's starting out and that's where they're putting their styling skills into practice? Are there any tips you could share on, you know?
Well, sometimes what I will do is I'll talk about the fit of something. So I'll do the like the mirror strategy.
Yes.
So you're touching on the shoulders and reinforcing that, you've got this amazing, it fits beautifully on your shoulders. I'll talk about the vital V, and I point out things that perhaps other sales assistants wouldn't necessarily know. And so you instill confidence in them rather than just trying to sell. So I'm not there just to sell a top. I'm there to point out the attributes and why, and kind of educate them a wee bit. And so they end up having more respect for you, and that's how you can start building a wee following there as well. So if you're working in a store, you'll get your customers that will just want to come back to you rather than somebody else. So I only work Friday afternoon and a Saturday till 3, but I've got my regulars who come in, and often they're just coming in to say hello, but that's lovely. So yeah.
You've got sort of that secondary community who know you as Tracy from the store, but also appreciate that you've got this skill set behind you.
So demonstrate your skills. If you've been, through your training, whether it's online or in person at ASI, then show your skills, get them out there and share them, so that it puts you in a position of authority.
Yeah, I love that. I want to wrap up, I guess, by asking one of the key questions that I've been asking everyone in this series so far, which is, what is success to you and how do you measure that for yourself?
Well, for me, success is the joy. It's the joy that I see when my clients have come to the end of their session with me and they are so thrilled. It's the joy I get from helping them, and I think that's everything. Success is just never giving up, because when you give up, you're out. So you've got to keep going. If you have a knock, take it on the chin, lick your wounds, and then get back up and get back out there, and then find the joy. And yeah, that for me is success.
I love that. And I think for so many people, initially when you set out in something like this, you can feel like success is going to be maybe like more of a tangible something or a financial reward, but actually it's really the fact that we can experience joy by giving it to other people and serving other people, which is really, really cool.
Yeah. That's what I mean.
You're fine, all good. One last question is a little bit about the retail sort of landscape in New Zealand. Are there any retailers that you love over there that maybe we don't have here in Australia?
Well, Treasure Box by Biani, which is where I work.
Okay.
So we are small. We've just got the one store in Christchurch, but it's beautiful, and we stock a lot of Camilla and Mark Rebecca Valance, but also European labels and a lot of Australasian, so that we tend to do a lot of locals through Australia and New Zealand, lovely labels. I don't know if you've heard of Marl. That's a Kiwi brand, which is all natural fibres, beautifully made. So yeah, I really like that, and that's something I love, is that we're quite unique. You can get Camilla and Mark and plenty of other retail spaces as well, but our store is quite unique in Christchurch anyway. Yeah.
Yep. Very cool. Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing so much about your journey and where you're at. And also, I mean, the book, some people probably think that they couldn't even sit down to write it, but you did it in 3 months. I would have thought you would have been like 3 years, but 3 months is pretty amazing.
If anybody does want to get any insight into how to approach it, please direct them to me. I don't know if you'll have a link, but honestly, I'd love to help if anyone wants to do anything like that. Yeah.
Awesome. Immortalized in a paperback. It's awesome. Good. Thank you so much for your time, Tracy. I'm sure that there are going to be a million nuggets of gold in what you've just shared that people will take away from this. So I appreciate you giving your time for not only our community, but also us here at ASI, so we could share more about you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I miss you all, and I just can't wait to get back to Melbourne to see you all in person.